The garden shears trembled in Sebastian Hale's hands as he crouched behind the azaleas, the sharp blades catching the afternoon light. His breath came shallow, heart pounding beneath the worn denim shirt and cap that disguised him as Ben, the estate's new gardener. Through the wide kitchen window, Vivienne Slade stood like a queen in her crimson dress, her slender fingers gripping a decorative rapier, a theatrical prop that had become a weapon of silent terror. "You call that setting the table?" Vivienne's voice sliced through the marble kitchen, cold and precise. "How many times must I tell you? Breakfast is served before the table is set, not after." Clara, the eldest child, sat frozen on the gray sofa, her small hands clutching the edge of the cushion. June and Max huddled beside her, wide-eyed and silent, their faces pale under the soft light filtering through the curtains. Max's tiny fingers curled tightly around a worn stuffed elephant, his only comfort in a house that had grown colder by the day. Rosa Alvarez, the maid, moved quietly between Vivienne and the children, her black uniform crisp, yellow gloves pulled snug over her hands. Her eyes, steady and warm, met Sebastian's for a brief moment through the glass. A silent promise passed between them. She was the shield he needed. Outside, Sebastian's knees ached from crouching, but he dared not move. Every scrape of Vivienne's heels against the tile, every sharp word, echoed like a warning. The scent of lemon cleaner mingled with the faint rustle of leaves, grounding him in this strange new reality, a billionaire living as a gardener in his own home. 2 weeks earlier, Sebastian had sat in a cramped motel room, peeling off the fake beard that had become his second skin. The red marks on his face stung, but the pain was nothing compared to the ache in his chest. He stared at the man in the cracked mirror, a stranger with tired eyes and a heavy secret. His phone buzzed. A message from Daniel Hayes, his lawyer and friend. "Are you sure about this? The risks are real. Privacy laws, deception, fallout." Sebastian's fingers hovered over the keyboard before he typed back, "I have no choice. The children need me." The truth was unbearable. Vivienne, once the charming socialite he married, had become a shadow of cruelty behind closed doors. His children, Clara, June, and Max, had grown silent, their laughter replaced by fear. He remembered the days when Clara would run into his arms, June's bright smile lighting the room, and Max's innocent giggles echoing through the halls. Now, they flinched at his approach, their eyes wary and distant. In a sleek downtown office, Sebastian had laid out his desperate plan to Daniel. "You want to disappear? Live undercover as a gardener?" "It's risky, Sebastian. Illegal even," Daniel warned. "You could face serious consequences." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "I'm willing to take that risk. If I'm wrong, I'll face the fallout. But if I'm right, I have to protect my family." Daniel sighed but nodded. "We'll prepare the legal groundwork. Custody papers, protective orders. But you need solid proof, something undeniable." The next morning, Ben arrived at the estate. Rosa Alvarez opened the back door with a cautious but warm smile. Her black uniform was crisp, yellow gloves tucked into her apron. Her eyes held a quiet strength that Sebastian immediately noticed. "You must be the new gardener," she said kindly. "Yes, ma'am. Name's Ben," Sebastian replied, lowering his voice. Rosa showed him the ropes, trimming roses, cleaning fountains, tending to the grounds. She was respectful, but never servile, her demeanor a rare blend of dignity and warmth in a house shadowed by tension. Vivienne appeared in the kitchen just as Sebastian stepped outside. Her eyes flicked over him with thinly veiled disdain. "This gardener better be better than the last one," she said sharply. "That man was hopeless." Sebastian nodded quietly, feeling the weight of every word. Days passed, and Sebastian settled into his role, the scent of wet earth and roses clinging to his skin. But the ache in his chest grew heavier with every silent glance from the children, every whispered reprimand from Vivienne, and every small act of cruelty he witnessed. One afternoon, he saw Vivienne snatch Max's stuffed elephant from his trembling hands and toss it into the trash. The boy's sobs echoed through the kitchen, and Rosa quietly promised to wash the toy, slipping extra bread into a drawer later that day. Sebastian's gratitude toward Rosa deepened. She was more than a maid. She was a guardian angel in the shadows, risking everything to protect the children. That night, back in his motel room, Sebastian pressed a small digital recorder into his palm. Just a little longer, he whispered to himself. I'll have proof. The house was a battlefield disguised as a home, and Sebastian, the gardener in the shadows, was ready to fight for his family's future. If you care about stories that reveal the hidden truths behind closed doors, stories that give a voice to the silenced, then don't just watch in silence. Subscribe now, hit that like button, and tell us in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. Because every moment you wait, someone's story remains unheard. The days blurred together in a rhythm of quiet observation and careful restraint. Sebastian, now fully Ben, moved through the estate's gardens with practiced ease, his hands roughened by soil and pruning shears. Each morning, he rose before dawn, slipping out of the motel room with the weight of his secret pressing down like the heavy fog rolling off the coast. His notebook, worn at the edges, was filled with terse entries. Day 4. Clara stopped calling me daddy. Day 7. Vivienne's smile sharpens when guests arrive, cold behind closed doors. Day 10. Rosa slips bread into the children's room again. Behind the garden's hedges, Sebastian watched Vivienne's two faces unfold like a cruel play. To the outside world, she was the perfect hostess, graceful, charming, the life of every high society gathering. But inside the house, her voice was a weapon, her words cutting deeper than any blade. Discipline is refinement, she told Clara one afternoon, her tone icy. Softness is sloppiness. You will learn to obey. Sebastian's heart clenched as he saw the children shrink beneath her gaze, their small bodies folding into silence. The house was no longer a sanctuary. It was a cage. Rosa was the quiet rebellion in the storm. In the pantry, she hid snacks behind rows of canned goods, slipping them to the children when Vivienne's back was turned. At night, she folded a spare blanket onto Clara's bed, smoothing the wrinkles with gentle hands. When tears escaped June's eyes, Rosa wiped them away with the corner of her apron, whispering promises no one else dared to speak. One evening, as Sebastian trimmed the rose bushes near the kitchen window, Rosa approached him quietly. Ben, she said softly, using his alias, I've seen this before. Another home, another family. I couldn't stay silent then. I won't now. Sebastian looked up, meeting her steady gaze. I want to tell you who I really am, he began, but the words caught in his throat. Trust was fragile here, and he wasn't ready to break the fragile bond they'd built. Instead, he nodded. Thank you, Rosa, for everything. The small digital recorder nestled in Sebastian's pocket was his lifeline. He had bought it on a whim, a tiny device no one would notice. Each day, he captured fragments of Vivienne's cruelty, her whispered threats, the sharp commands, the cold admissions. One recording chilled him to the bone. Vivienne on the phone, voice low and venomous. Fear works. They'll learn. They have to. Sebastian played the clip in the solitude of his motel room, hands trembling. This was no longer suspicion. This was proof. He met with Daniel Hayes in a quiet cafe, the lawyer's face grave as Sebastian laid out the evidence. This is solid, Daniel said, sliding a folder across the table. Custody motions, protective orders. But you have to be careful. One misstep, and this could all unravel. Sebastian nodded, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. I'm ready. But the tension inside the house was reaching a breaking point. One afternoon, Vivienne cornered Rosa in the kitchen, her voice low but sharp. You're always there when I'm disciplining the children, Vivienne accused, eyes narrowing. Are you trying to turn them against me? Rosa's eyes flashed with defiance. I'm protecting them. Vivienne's lips curled into a cruel smile. One misstep, and you'll be out on the street. Sebastian, hidden just beyond the doorway, felt his chest tighten. His fingers clenched around a recorder in his pocket. The moment was coming. The moment when silence would shatter. Outside, the garden bloomed with roses and thorns alike. And Sebastian, the gardener in disguise, was tending to the fragile shoots of hope one careful step at a time. The estate buzzed with quiet anticipation. Vivienne's weekly ladies' luncheon was more than a social event. It was her stage, a carefully crafted display of success and control. Sebastian watched from the garden, sweat beading on his forehead beneath the heavy disguise. The beard itched, the worn cap pressed low, but his focus was razor-sharp. Daniel Hayes had prepared the legal groundwork meticulously. Divorce papers signed, custody motions ready, protective orders drafted. Sebastian rehearsed his words in the mirror of his motel room, weighing every syllable, every pause. The timing had to be perfect. Too soon, and the evidence might be dismissed. Too late, and the children's suffering would deepen. This is the moment, he thought, when the truth must be undeniable. Inside the house, Vivienne was a whirlwind of charm and precision. Her red dress hugged her figure as she arranged the terrace, white parasols casting dappled shade over the marble. The fountain gurgled softly, a serene backdrop to the storm about to break. Clara, June, and Max were dressed stiffly, their smiles forced and brittle. Vivienne paraded them like trophies, her voice sweet but sharp. "Good afternoon," Clara said, her tone unnatural, rehearsed. The guests cooed and whispered, admiring the perfect family tableau. Vivienne's smile was radiant, but Sebastian saw the cracks beneath the surface. The day had been a slow crescendo of small cruelties. A withheld snack here, a too-tight ribbon there. A favorite toy thrown to the floor and stomped on. The metallic scrape of the rapier against the display stand echoed in Sebastian's ears, a chilling reminder of the weapon Vivienne wielded like a scepter. Rosa's acts of care grew more desperate. She slipped extra bread into the children's pockets, folded blankets with trembling hands, whispered soothing words no one else dared to speak. The luncheon began. Guests in summer dresses sipped iced tea, their laughter light but rehearsed. Vivienne's charm was on full display, her eyes sparkling with calculated grace. Sebastian trimmed the hedges nearby, dirt under his nails, beard glue pulling at his skin. His heart pounded as he watched the children, stiff and silent, their eyes flickering with fear. Then, the moment shattered. Max, the youngest, reached out clumsily, knocking a glass from the table. It shattered across the marble with a sharp crash. Vivienne's face hardened instantly. Her hand shot to the decorative rapier at her side, fingers curling around the slender blade. "You will learn obedience," she hissed, advancing toward the children. The terrace froze. Rosa stepped forward, yellow-gloved hands raised in a plea. "Not like this," she said firmly. Vivienne's eyes blazed. The rapier slashed the air, grazing Rosa's arm. A gasp rippled through the guests as a small stain bloomed on the black fabric of Rosa's sleeve. Sebastian dropped his shears, every muscle taut. His fingers reached for the beard. Should he reveal himself now? Call security? A hushed voice whispered among the guests. But Sebastian's mind was clear. Not yet. Not until they hear her voice. The house held its breath, and the gardener, hidden in plain sight, prepared to bring the truth into the light. The terrace fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the soft gasp that escaped from the guests as Rosa staggered back, clutching her arm where the rapier had grazed her. A small, dark stain spread across her yellow glove, a vivid, undeniable mark of violence. Sebastian's heart thundered in his chest. The moment had come. Slowly, deliberately, he stepped forward from the shadows of the garden, his voice calm, but carrying across the stunned crowd. "I am Sebastian Hale." The beard and cap came off in one swift motion, revealing the man they all thought was miles away on a business trip. The gardener in the doorway was the billionaire himself. A hush fell over the guests. Eyes widened, whispers rippled like a wave. Sebastian held up the small digital recorder, the device that had captured every cruel word, every cold command. "Listen," he said, pressing play. Vivienne's voice filled the terrace, clear and chilling. "Fear works. They'll learn. I'm breaking them." The words echoed, undeniable and raw. Gasps turned to murmurs of disbelief. A woman screamed softly. A man stepped forward, shielding a child. Vivienne lunged for the recorder, her face twisted in rage. Sebastian blocked her with steady hands. "You're lying," she spat, voice trembling with fury. "She's manipulating you. This is a setup." Sebastian's gaze never wavered. The divorce papers are signed. Custody measures are in place. The police and estate security have been notified. The social mask Vivienne wore cracked. A sob escaped, quickly swallowed by bitter laughter. Guests recoiled, some whispering, "How could we not have known?" Daniel Hayes appeared at Sebastian's side, papers in hand, his expression resolute. Security moved in, escorting Vivienne toward the house to pack. She screamed threats, promising ruin and revenge. Sebastian's voice cut through the chaos. "This house is my responsibility. You will not hurt them again." Rosa collapsed into a nearby chair, exhaustion etched into her face. Her hand hovered over the stained yellow glove, trembling. Sebastian knelt beside the children, their small bodies clinging to him, sobs dissolving into quiet relief. Clara's fingers gripped his sleeve. June nestled against Rosa's apron. Max's eyes, wide and uncertain, finally softened. The guests began to disperse, some whispering apologies, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The social veneer had shattered. As Vivienne was driven away in a private car, her threats still ringing in the air, Sebastian's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You think this is over? My friend in PR will make sure your name is mud." Sebastian's jaw tightened. The battle was far from finished. But for now, the children were safe. He looked down at Rosa, who met his gaze with quiet strength. "We'll rebuild," he promised softly. Together, the garden outside bloomed under the fading light, a fragile symbol of hope and healing. And Sebastian Hale, no longer a shadow in the hedgerows, vowed to be the father his children deserved, in daylight at last. The morning after the storm was quiet, almost surreal. The estate, once filled with tension and whispered fears, now held a fragile calm. Police officers moved discreetly through the house, serving protective orders and securing Vivienne's belongings as evidence. Daniel Hayes sat with Sebastian in the sunlit study, laying out the next steps. Court motions, custody filings, and public statements carefully crafted to protect the children's privacy. Sebastian listened, the weight of responsibility heavy but steady on his shoulders. "I know what I did was extreme," he admitted quietly. "But the recordings, the witnesses, they make the case undeniable." Daniel nodded. Self-help was risky, but with the children's safety at stake, it's justifiable. Now it's about rebuilding. In the kitchen, the scent of fresh pancakes filled the air. Clara laughed as Sebastian shaped a pancake into a clumsy animal, her smile genuine and bright for the first time in weeks. June, nestled in Rosa's lap, yawned softly, clutching a plush toy Rosa had brought from the staff quarters. Max munched happily on a slice of toast, his eyes sparkling with newfound trust. Rosa moved quietly, tucking a soft blanket around June and reading a story in a low, soothing voice. Her yellow gloves were gone, replaced by gentle hands that offered comfort and care. Outside, the garden bloomed under the oak tree Sebastian had planted years ago, a living reminder of promises made and kept. Later, Sebastian found Rosa in the sunroom, her eyes tired but resolute. "I want to offer you more than just a job," he said, voice steady. "A formal role as guardian family manager. Fair wages, paid leave, a seat at family meetings. You kept them alive for me when I failed." Rosa hesitated, pride and trauma warring in her gaze. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," she whispered. "But thank you." They shared a quiet moment, the seed of trust planted between them. As dusk settled, Sebastian stood in the garden, pruning a rose bush he had planted when Clara was born. The children's laughter drifted from the house, a melody of healing and hope. He spoke aloud, a vow carried on the evening breeze. "I will be here, present, tending what was broken, like a gardener tending a newly planted bed." The mansion smelled of roses and fresh beginnings. The social world would murmur, and Vivienne might fight back with legal battles and public relations storms. But for now, safety had taken root. And Sebastian Hale would learn to be a father in daylight, not a shadow in the hedgerows. If this story touched you, if you felt the weight of silence and the power of courage, don't let it end here. Subscribe to join us for more stories that matter, and share in the comments which part of Sebastian and Rosa's journey moved you the most. Your voice helps keep these stories alive.